guests online on Zoom and our home kids with us this morning for a little bit. We're going to begin on the smaller red books below your seats. These Sidurim should look familiar to you. And we're going to start on page 141. We're going to look at the last line in the Hebrew, which would really be like the second to last line, starting at the word va'ani tefilati. As for me, my prayer is for you, the gentle one. Around us may be for you a time of desire, an abundance of your love. Respond to me in truth with your help. Page 141. Shabbat Shalom, welcome to SAJ as we celebrate this Shabbat, I'm still working on a name, but Shabbat in between, because in some parts of the Jewish community, we are done with Pesach. Yesterday was the 7th day and the final day of the festival, and for other folks, they are celebrating the 8th day of Passover, and so we recognize our commitment and our part of the larger Jewish community and wanting to be part of, still aligned with them in many ways and recognizing also our own observances, and to also bring in the fact that yesterday was Earth Day, and to celebrate all of creation, all of nature, and appreciation for what we are given, the bounties of the earth, and all of the wonderful gifts that we've been given, the air that we breathe, the food that we eat, all of the sustenance that allows us to live. So if you want to turn to page 185, there's a beautiful poem called Nature is God's Nigun. Nigun is a wordless melody, and we're going to sing a little bit of a wordless melody in a little bit. Nature is God's nigun. Nature is God's wordless melody. A wordless melody of unfolding life. To awaken to God, we must hear the nigun. To awaken to God, we must listen in deep silence. Silence arises when thinking ceases. If we would know God, we must quiet the mind. Cease chatter that passes for knowledge, when in fact it only flatters the foolish. We cannot live without words, but let us not imagine that words are sufficient. As a symphony needs rest to lift music out of noise, so we need silence to lift truth out of words. We're going to continue with Psalm 136. Psalm is a poem of praise, and we'll start with a nigun. We'll start with a wordless melody. Hopefully it'll be familiar or you can pick it up. And then we'll add a little bit of these words of praise to it. Page 201. La 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 la. To Psalm 150, the final psalm, the last psalm, and we're going to switch up our melody because I want to do one that our Macomb kids know. So I think, and you guys let me know if it's not familiar, but I think this is the one you guys know. We're just going to do the Sufi one. Page 231. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah. warmed up in our body and our voices, and we are ready for the call to prayer on page 247. And for those of you at home, hopefully you have the PDF and you can follow along on there as well. That's on page 40. That's in the PDF at home. Page 247 in the sanctuary or in the Siddur. I invite everyone to please rise.
Baruch Adonai HaMvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Ruach HaOlam. Please be seated.
We're on the next page. Hakol Yoducha in the Hebrew, or transliterated at the bottom of the page. Let all beings acknowledge you, cry praise, and declare all beings of creation. We move forward in our creation prayer, our Yotzer prayer on page 268 into page 269. Every day, creation is renewed. We wake up and see unfolding in the spreading light of dawn the world and all it contains, coming into being new and fresh, filled with divine goodness and love. Every day, creation is renewed. Reflect in the great lights, we see a new day, one precious day, eternity. We sing the words, Or Chadash al Tzion Ta'ir. Let a new light shine forever upon Zion, and soon may everyone be worthy of its light. moment to daven the traditional liturgy to ourselves, or read the translation on the closing page, or some of the kavanot, the extra thoughts and meditations below the line on either page. And gathering together the four corners of the talit, we gather our scattered thoughts and focus on unity, uniting our people, uniting the disparate elements of our lives, uniting with the oneness that links all that is. This inner unity is the place out of which our hearts speak the Shema. We're about to chant the Shema together on page 277. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha v'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher Elohim etzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinatam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'beitecha u'vlechtecha v'derech u'v'shoftecha u'v'kumecha u'kshartam lehot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'v'isharecha. Continue with the second paragraph of the Shema to ourselves with the alternative version on 279 or the traditional version on 283, and after a moment we'll come back together for the third paragraph. Be'ayah. Page 285 or 65 in the PDF. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el bnei Yisrael ve'amarta aleihem ve'asu lahem tzitzit al kanfei bigdeihem ledorotam v'natenu al tzitzit hakanaf v'tir techelet ve'ayalachem letzitzit uritem oto v'zachartem et kol mitzvot Adonai v'asitem otam ve'lo taturu
אשר אתם זונים אחריהם, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Page 291, we have the Song of the Sea, we have Micha Mocha. We've just come through this amazing festival of Pesach, a festival where I think we feel like we have the greatest sense of community, where folks gather not just in synagogue with their surrounding larger community, but also community in their home, with family, with friends, with neighbors. And so I wanted to bring in this new melody from Micha Mocha that really needs to be done in community. There are, obviously we're going to sing it all together, I'll teach you the new melody, but also there are parts where folks add an echo to some of the words, and it's this really beautiful setting by Hannah Tiferet Siegel. A little bit more of a contemplative, I think, take on the Song of the Sea now that we've passed it. Yesterday was the 7th day of Pesach, so we literally walked through the sea yesterday, and so we're sort of on the other side of it today. And so I'll teach you the melody, and then I'm going to teach you where the echoes are. So the main part goes like this. Micha mocha bailim Adonai, Micha mocha nedar b'kodesh. So that's the first part. So I'll break it down for you, and you can repeat after me. So let's begin the first couple of bars. You'll listen to me, and then we'll do it together. Micha mocha bailim Adonai. Try it with me. Micha mocha bailim Adonai. Great, and then the second half is a little bit similar and a little bit different, so just listen. Micha mocha nedar b'kodesh. Try with me. Micha mocha nedar b'kodesh. Good. Let's try those first few bars all together. Micha mocha bailim Adonai, Micha mocha nedar b'kodesh. Great. So then the second part goes like this, and this is where the echo comes in. I'm going to go, Nora, and you're going to go, Nora, and then I'm going to go, Tehilot, Tehilot. Good. Oseh. And the second one goes up, Vele, Nora, Tehilot, Oseh, Vele. Good. Nora, Tehilot, Oseh, Vele. Nora, Tehilot. Good. Oseh, Vele. Beautiful. And then there's the part in the middle that I'll just sing, and then at the end it comes back with, you're going to echo Adonai. Good. Hero. 87 on Zoom in the PDF. It's our minhag to chant the first three blessings of the Amidah together out loud through the Kedusha, and after that you can use the remaining time to daven the rest of the traditional liturgy or find the alternative liturgy or simply sit with the prayer that is most appropriate in your heart this morning. Again, page 295. La 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 Adonai. La 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 Sfatai Tiftach. La 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 Ufi Yagid. Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha. La 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 Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, V'konei hakol, v'zocher chasdei avot v'imot, u'mevii geula livnei b'neihem, l'ma'an shemo b'yahava, melech ozer u'moshia u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, magen Avraham, v'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Rav le'Hoshia, morid hatal, mechakel chayim b'chesed, mechayei kol chay berachamim rabim, somech nofli ve'ofei cholim, u'matir asurim, u'mekayim emunato l'shenei afar, michamocha bal gevurot, u'midol melach, melech minit u'mechayeh, u'matzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'emanat l'chayot kol chay, Baruch atah Adonai, mechayei kol chay. Page 303. Nekadesh et shimcha ba'olam, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב היו נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ויאמר, קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות
ושפחך אלוהינו מפינו לא יבוש לעולם ועד. כי אל מלך גדול וקדוש אתה ברוך, אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. A Prayer for Peace, page 323, transliterated in the chat. Let's say Shalom. Say Shalom b'Roma, Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu. Say Shalom b'Roma, Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu. Say Shalom b'Roma. We've now reached the Torah service part of our morning. So I'm going to invite up couple of folks to help out up here. Our ark opener and our Torah holder, Evan and Athena. And then I'm going to invite everyone to please rise. We're going to turn to page 385.
Stand over here. Okay. If you get close here, thanks. Page 393, we're going to recite responsively. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Gadolul Adonai iti, unrobema Shemo yachdav. Remember, Adonai Eloheinu, ve'ishtakavu.
reading this week, if you want to follow along, is in the larger red books below your seats. So we are in I mentioned this before, sort of an interesting place in the calendar, because at SAJ and in most progressive communities, we observe 7 days of Pesach, but the rest of the diaspora community, Jewish community outside of Israel, observes 8 days. And so we have a number of adjustments we need to make over the years. So in order to sort of stay in the same Torah portion as everyone else and not have to repeat a Torah portion, we are going to actually chant the 8th day Pesach Torah reading, which is a beautiful reading anyway. It talks about, it mentions the 3 festivals of the year, and it also mentions the sacrifices you're supposed to make, which, okay, you can take or leave, but it starts with Pesach and observing Pesach for 7 days, and eating matzah for 7 days, and then counting the Omer for 49 days and observing Shavuot. And then it goes on to mention the other 7-day holiday in the fall, the Feast of Booths, or also known as Sukkot. So, and we have Debbie chanting. We're in the book of Deuteronomy, so we're at the back of our Chumashim. The reading is going to begin on chapter 15. This is page 1080, and there should be a link in the chat as well for you folks at home to follow along. That's 1080. We're in Deuteronomy chapter 15, starting at verse 19. And so we have a number of honors for 1, 2, and 3. Aliyah 4 is for anyone observing a yahrzeit today or in the coming week. That's Aliyah 4. And then Aliyah 5 is for anyone who is celebrating a simcha, any sort of birthday, anniversary, celebration, perhaps. I know you two over there. You're gonna come up later. And I think that's it. Okay, so we have our first Aliyah. Ruth, are you coming up? I gotta find the page. V'yazor v'yageya v'yigin v'yishor licho chosim bo v'nomar amen. Hakol havu bodel Eloheinu tnu chavod laTorah na'lamod rishona. Oh, we gotta get out the blessing cards. I'm sorry. I know you know them probably. Here we are. Baruch shenatan Torah l'mo Yisrael b'kedushato, v'atem madrikim b'Adonai Elohechem, chayim kolchem hayom. Baruch Adonai havarach le'olam va'ed.
Asher k'rabanu לעבודתו ונתן לנו לתורתו, ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen.
Amen. Kol ha-bechor asher yivaled bivkacha ובצאתך הזכר, תקדיש לאדוני אלוהיך, לא תעבוד בכבוד שורך ולא תגוז בכבוד שונאיך. לפני אדוני אלוהיך תאכלנו שנה בשנה, במקום אשר יבחר אדוני אתה וביתך. וכי יבוא מום תיסח או עיוור, כל מום רע לא תפתחנו לאדוני אלוהיך. בשעריך תאכלנו הטמא והטהור יחדיו, כצבי וכאייל. רק את דמו לא תאכל, על הארץ תשפכנו כמים.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם, נתן בתוכנו. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
And thank you, Ruth, for the really important tish that you gave this morning about your trip to Afghanistan.
Yes, thank you. Analamod leila hashini. The reading continues on page 1081. We're at the beginning of chapter 16.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kivanu levodato v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Shamor et chodesh ha'aviv ve'asita Pesach l'Adonai Elohecha. Ki b'chodesh ha'aviv hotziacha Adonai Elohecha miMitzrayim la'ala. V'zavata Pesach l'Adonai Elohecha tzon u'bakar. B'makom asher yivchar Adonai l'shachim shemo sham. לא תאכל עליו חמץ שבעת ימים, תאכל עליו בצות לחם עוני. כי בחיפזון יצאת מארץ מצרים, למען תזכור את יום צאתך בארץ מצרים, כל ימי חייך. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. For our third Aliyah, we are inviting our speaker, who we'll hear from later, Rabbi Chaim Shalom, for our third Aliyah. Nalamo Aliyah Shlishi. So we want to bring up the Torah blessings to share. And Rabbi Chaim, if you want to unmute, unless you know them. Okay.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vaed.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קירבנו לעבודתו ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Continuing on verse 4, page 1082.
אמן. ולא ייראה לך שאור בכל גבולך שבעת ימים, ולא ירים מן הבשר אשר תטבח בערב ביום הראשון לבוקר. לא תוכל לזבוח את הפסח באחד שעריך אשר אדוני אלוהיך נותן לך. כי אם אל המקום אשר נבחר אדוני אלוהיך לשכן שמו, שם תזבח את הפסח בערב, כבוא השמש מועד צאתך ממצרים. ובישלת ואכלת במקום אשר נבחר אדוני אלוהיך בו, ופנית בבוקר והלכת לאכלך. 6 ימים תאכל מצות, וביום השביעי עצרת לאדוני אלוהיך, לא תעשה מלאכה.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Yasher Koach, thank you so much for being with us. We're really looking forward to hearing from you and about you a little bit later after our Torah reading. Yasher Koach. Aliyah 4 is on page 1083, starting at verse 9. This is for anyone observing a yard site today or in the coming week, both anyone in the sanctuary or if you are on Zoom and observing a yard site, please let us know and we will spotlight you. You are, yes. And we can, Is there anyone at home? Just want to make sure we're not missing anyone. Okay. Okay, Debbie, I think you're the only one.
Baruch Hu Adonai. Baruch Hu Adonai Hamborach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kirvanu la'avodato v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Shiva Shavuot Tisparach. Meha el ha'achermish b'kamad tachel lizkor shiva shavuot v'asita chag shavuot l'Adonai Elohecha misat midvat asher titen kasher yivarechecha Adonai Elohecha v'samachta lifnei Adonai Elohecha Ata uvicha uvitecha v'yadecha v'yamatecha v'halevi asher b'sha'arecha v'hager v'hayatom v'almana asher b'kirbecha v'abakol asher nivchar Adonai Elohecha l'shachet shemo sham v'zacharta ki eved hayita b'mitzrayim v'shamata v'yasita et hachukim ha'eleh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu torat emet v'chayei olam ata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Before I chant the El Malay memorial prayer, I'd like for you to share the name and relationship of the person whose yahrzeit you're observing.
My father, Louis Castle.
Rabbi Yaakov Cohen.
El Malay Rachamim Shochein Bamromim Hamsei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Hashchina. Excuse me. B'malot Kirushim Utorim Kezor Rakiyam Asirim Lenishmot Yakirinu Kedoshenu Shalchu Leolamam Ana Barachamim Hastir Mitzah Kenafecha Leolamim Utzror Bitzor HaChayim Nishmatam Adonai Hu Nachalatam V'yanuchu v'shalom Mishkavam V'nomar Amen. This last aliyah, starting on verse 13, we're on page 1084. This is for anyone who's got something to celebrate. Birthday, anniversary, other fun things. Maybe you had some house guests leave and you're excited about that too. Or you're just glad that Passover's over, you don't have to eat matzah anymore. But birthdays are a good reason to celebrate too.
I think my,
This is my old friend Karen.
oh, okay.
But I can't let but yeah. I don't want to see.
Okay, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamadorah.
Baruch Adonai Havorach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai mevarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kivanu la'avodato, v'natan lanu et Torah. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. חג הסוכות תעשה לך 7 ימים, ואהבתך מגנך ומקווה. ושמחת בחגיך, אתה ובנך וביתך, וילדך וימתך, והלוי והגר והיתום והאלמנה אשר בשעריך. 7 ימים,
7
ימים, תחוג לאדוני אלוהיך, במקום אשר יבחר. כי יברכך אדוני אלוהיך, בכל תבואתך ובכל מעשה ידיך, והיית אך שמח. 3 פעמים בשנה, יראה כל זכורך את פני אדוני אלוהיך, במקום אשר יבחר, בחג המצות, ובחג השבועות, ובחג הסוכות, ולא יראה את פני אדוני ריקם, איש כמתנת ידו, כברכת אדוני אלוהיך,
אשר נתן לך.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah v'chayei olam. Nata b'tochenu, Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen. So I know we have 2 birthdays here. Marilyn, are you also celebrating your birthday, or you want to share? If you want to unmute and say what you're celebrating? Or maybe you're not. Yes, Marilyn, you're not celebrating anything? Okay. Well, we're glad you're here. We're celebrating your presence. Just to make sure we're not missing anyone else. Okay, we have 2 amazing birthdays. Are we saying how old we are?
Mine was April 24th tomorrow. And
Lovely, wonderful. Mi sheberach avotin Abraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, imotenu Sarah Rechov Aleah. May the one who blessed our ancestors bless you, Karen, on your birthday, and you, Paul, on your birthday. May you find nourishment throughout your life up to the present time, and may you continue to be protected and filled with life and happiness. May you enjoy many more years of life and blessing. May you continue to find friendship and community and nourishment in all your endeavors. May all of your loved ones rejoice with you, and all your wishes be fulfilled for good. And let us say, Amen. Allah. Glad to have you with us this sanctuary. Before we raise and dress the Torah, we are going to take a moment to offer blessings for healing. I'll start the prayer, and then I'll lead the congregational list, and then I'll ask those of you who have a name you'd like to share of somebody who's in need of healing in mind or body or spirit to either stand at your seat or simply raise your hand, and we'll go around the room and share their name out loud for the community. And for those of you at home, please add any names in the chat of anyone who's in need of healing in your life as well. Grant a complete healing to Esther Aviva Bat Sarah Adel, Avraham Michael Ben Shira Yafe Yosef, Larry Josephson, Paul Rosenblum, Zelda Bat Devorah Yisrael, Mort Gerberg, Chava Bat Moish, Paul Lindenbaum, Phyllis Kreutner, Ava Reisman, Kayla Bat Sarah, Amy Mendelker, Margot Hellman, Florence Cohn, Tehila Bat Bella, Florence Rosenthal, Ruth Goldenstone, Kate Frici, Jill Prosky, Shalom Hellman, Alan Gard, Yaakov Ben Ladi, Reyes Ben Sarah, Chava Batchaya, George Freiga, Jennifer Novak, Shimon Ben Sviva Esther, Hanan Lev Ben Leah, Abigail Feder-Kane, Hagen Gottfried, Joseph Gottfried, Heidi Gottfried, Nanette Gottfried, Jesse Gottfried, Sonali Roy-Chaudhry, Ari Vogel, Al Seidenberg, Tybal Ruchel Bat Hashka Avraham, Sarah Bat Leah Golda, and Devorah Bat Chava Ignatz. May all those mentioned this morning and those still unnamed be granted a complete and full healing. And if healing is impossible, may they find comfort and peace around them. And let us say, Amen. We invite up our Hagba and Galila this morning. Micah and Neil. Is there a Neil? Yes, okay. Please rise. Vezot HaTorah Asher Sa Moshe Lifnei Bnei Yisrael Al Pi Adonai Beyad Moshe. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 Please be seated. Shakawa. We are very, very happy to be joined by Rabbi Chaim Shalom. You met him a little bit earlier, the rabbi of Kehilat Mevakshei Derech in Jerusalem, in Yerushalayim. He's joining us from Israel. As part of our 100th anniversary celebrations, we're learning about and reflecting on SAJ's history as well as its impact around the country and the world. In that spirit, as Yom HaAtzmaut approaches, we are thrilled to learn more about SAJ's lasting legacy in Israel. So this Shabbat also coincides with the yahrzeit of Rabbi Jack Cohen of blessed memory, former rabbi of SAJ, Kaplan devotee. He immigrated to Israel with the intention of spreading the teachings of Mordechai Kaplan to the Israeli community. Kehilat Mevakshei Derech was founded in 1962 and has served Israeli families for the past 6 decades, providing an egalitarian, democratic alternative to the state-sponsored Orthodox monopoly in Israel. Rabbi Chaim Shalom serves as the rabbi of the sole Reconstructionist congregation in Israel. He's originally from Manchester, England, was ordained in the Israeli Reform Rabbinical Seminary, and lives in Jerusalem with his partner Deborah and their 3 children. Rabbi Shalom will speak about the ways in which Kehilat Mevakshei Derech proudly brings SAJ and Reconstructing Judaism's message to Israeli society. We are very excited to have you here and to hear from you, Rabbi Chaim.
Thank you very much, Kenta Arbisa. So I hope everyone can hear me, and I speak with a little trepidation. I'm here to speak about my community, my congregation, and I have people who have been in this congregation for all their lives on the call with me here. So they know far more about it than I do. So I speak with humility and beg forgiveness for the mistakes I make. I also see Dr. Mel Skult, who knows more about Reconstructing Judaism and Reconstructionist Judaism than I will ever dream to know. So I apologize for the mistakes I make. They are entirely mine. And I also apologize for those of you who are finding it difficult to understand me. I am speaking English. It's just a slightly different version of English than what you're aware of. The truth is I'm actually American. I just put on a British accent because they tell me it makes me sound cleverer than I am. But I understand that people at the SAJ will, at least the older people will be used to a British accent. You had a British rabbi for 30 years, so you should have just about worked out how to understand me. At least better than my poor Israeli congregants who have to hear my British accented Hebrew when I speak to them. So I wanted to come and, as part of your celebration of 100 years, bring in also the commemoration of 10 years since the passing of Rabbi Jack Cohen. 2 of his children are here with us on this call. Michal Rosenfelder and Adina Sadeh are both with us here on this call, and his son Yirmi Cohen is in fact in America, unfortunately on some less pleasant family business. Rabbi Jack Cohen was the rabbi of the SAJ before Rabbi Alan Miller, and after Rabbi Ira Eisenstein. And after serving at the SAJ, he moved to Israel and founded, along with others, he was always very humble and called himself one of the founders of Kehilat Mevakshei Derech, and there were a group of founders of Kehilat Mevakshei Derech, but he was certainly the leader of that group. He founded Kehilat Mevakshei Derech, which means the community of the seekers of, and this is an important piece, the seekers of a path, not the path, but a path, because we recognize that there are many different paths that people might find and seek, and we are the seekers of a path. And there are many, many things to tell you about Kehilat Mevakshei Derech. I'm going to concentrate on some of the ways in which the way we do community today and the way that we're living out our congregational life reflects some of the questions that were originally raised by Mordechai Kaplan 100 years ago as he founded the SAJ, and that really have also been played out in your community, as I understand it, as an outsider from afar, who doesn't really know your community, but is a great admirer of it, and has been given the great privilege of being able to serve this, as it were, daughter congregation of yours. So many of you may not know about us, and I thought that it was an opportunity, as you look into the ways in which your community has changed the Jewish world in the past 100 years, you can find out a little bit about how it's changed Jerusalem, this city which we mentioned in the Torah reading that we had, the place where God will make God's name known, and where we will bring those sacrifices for Pesach and Shavuot and Sukkot. So I'm going to share with you this is a picture of the outside of our building. Okay, Kilat Mavakshei Derech there, as you see, and it says Yad Levanenu at the side, which means a memorial to our children, as well as being a Reconstructionist inspired, although slight correction, we're not actually a Reconstructionist community. We never joined the Reconstructionist movement. There's a whole bunch of reasons for that historically, but we won't go into those. But as well as being a Reconstructionist inspired community, we were also brought together by the fact that many of the founding members and then the early members of this community had children who served in the Israeli Defense Forces and fell. And a large element of the defining ethos of the community was that sense of sacrifice, that the people who had, many of them were immigrants themselves, had come here and had given the greatest sacrifice possible. And so our building is called a memorial to our children, which has a double meaning. Both it is a memorial to those children who gave their life so that the state of Israel could come into being. And it's also a memorial to our children in the sense of, we built this not so that we alone would be able to continue creative democratic Judaism in the heart of Jerusalem, but that many generations to come will. And I'll explain a little in the way that we're trying to affect future generations as I tell you a bit more. I'm also going to, just one more, move on, okay. The legacy of the SAJ in Jerusalem. So sometimes I call Kilat Mavakshei Derech the house that Jack built. For those of you who don't know, this is Rabbi Jack Cohen, who you see on the screen now. In his later years, admittedly, a long time after he was the rabbi of the SAJ, he passed away 10 years ago, and he was in his 90s at the time, and he lived a long and full life. And I dedicate my telling you a little bit about our community to him as we celebrate 10 years since he passed. This week's parasha is Parashat Achrei Mot, which, as Cantor Arbiter explained, for us here in Israel, we read the parasha of Achrei Mot this morning, unlike you guys over there who read the traditional reading for the 8th day of Pesach. That's because you want to be on the same cycle as the Kilot around you, the congregations around you, who will be reading Achrei Mot next week. But we read Achrei Mot this week. After the death, it's talking about the death of the sons of Aaron, but we here are also thinking about after the passing. Our founding figure, Rabbi Jack Cohen, passed away 10 years ago. It'll be 10 years on Monday, the anniversary of his passing. And it's a chance to take stock and reflect. And the truth is that these past 10 years have not been easy for our community. There have been many challenges. And I thought I'd explain a few of the challenges and a few of the ways in which we face those challenges so you can get a better understanding of what progressive Judaism looks like in Israel. We, just over 10 years ago, decided to build, as part of our congregation, an early learning center. Because we believed that the way to try and pass on the values that we have, the kind of democratic, egalitarian, creative Judaism that we believe in, would be to pass that on through educating the youngest of Israel's society. And it was very, very hard to get that early learning center up and running. And we are still challenged by many of the tensions which were part of the vision of Rabbi Cohen and Rabbi Eisenstein and Rabbi Kaplan. And we're trying to answer the question still in our various ways that we do our Judaism. How do we stay true to the prophetic voice of the Jewish tradition? How do we balance particularism and universalism? And how do we stand up for Jewish rights without, and I think this is the most important piece, without neglecting Jewish responsibilities? There's a sense in Kilat Mevakshei Derech that we are very much aware that Israel has changed a lot since we began. When we began and when Rabbi Cohen moved here in 1962, Israel was still understanding itself as struggling and still understanding itself as a surviving remnant. That's no longer relevant. Israel is now strong and Israel has power. And how do we address a very different Israel? So some of those questions are being asked by our members, but the truth is our challenges a lot of the time are a lot more mundane. How do you keep people involved in congregation? Israel has a much different challenge than North America in terms of building a progressive congregation. If you think about America, a congregation needs to find the Jews and make them want to be part of the Jewish community. But in Israel, everyone's part of the Jewish community. Everyone is Jewish, or obviously not everyone is Jewish, only 80% around of the population is Jewish, but they feel like they are the everyone. They belong to communities that have no connection to what we might call religion or religious civilization. So they don't need a synagogue to belong to a Jewish community. In North America, synagogues rely on the idea that people want to engage with Jewishness, and they do so via the synagogue or the JCC or other Jewish institutions. Here in Israel, no one needs a specific communal organization to engage with Jewishness. Okay, if my child is learning the Tanakh in school, like I learned Shakespeare in England, do they learn Shakespeare in America? I assume you still learn Shakespeare in America, but we actually had to really learn Shakespeare. You know, they forced us to remember whole pieces of Shakespeare. Okay, soft, what light through yonder window breaks? 'Tis the east, and Juliet is the sun. Arise, fair sun. I can still remember the Shakespeare they forced me to learn, and my children will be forced to remember pieces of the Hebrew Bible, the Tanakh. Why do people need synagogues if the schools are giving them Judaism? So we have a very different challenge than the one associated with North American Judaism. Obviously, there are also similar challenges at times. So our mundane challenges sometimes come ahead of those lofty principle challenges about particularism and universalism. But nevertheless, we have continued to make great strides forward, and we have numerous achievements that we're very proud of, that we feel are also part of your achievements, okay? Part of what the SAJ inspired in this country. At the moment, progressive Jewish education is taking place in this synagogue that I'm talking to you from in 9 preschool classes. That means over 100 Israeli families are being subjected to the values, the progressive values that underpin our work. We work within interfaith fora to advance the cause of peace, coexistence, and sometimes also co-resistance to the abuse of power, which our members recognize in what is happening in Israel today. We have continued Jewish creativity, bringing together Jewish experiences from around the globe. Okay, you were talking about the fact that it's for some the day after Pesach, for some 8th-day Pesach. By Israelis today, or at least tonight, because it's also kind of put off by Shabbat, is what's called Mimuna. Originally a Moroccan celebration of the end of Pesach. It's now been embraced by the whole of Israel, okay? And despite the fact that, of course, the vast majority of people who founded this synagogue come from Ashkenazi backgrounds, that's not true of all of them, okay? We have many non-Ashkenazi members. We have Mizrahi or Sephardi members, and some of them are also Moroccan. One of our most regular Torah readers was born in the town of Tangiers in Morocco and helped us celebrate a wonderful Mimuna just the year before Corona stopped those kind of happenings being able to happen. And we had hundreds and hundreds of people celebrating Mimuna. Long before many progressive Jews, and now it's a standard part of the progressive Jewish movement here in Israel, but long before progressive Jews were celebrating Sigd, the totemic festival of the Ethiopian Israeli community, okay, which happens at the end of Cheshvan, 40 days after Yom Kippur. So long before others were celebrating Sigd, our kindergarten here and all the kindergarteners were celebrating it with their Ethiopian Israeli teacher, because we believed, and we do believe, in bringing all the different faces of Judaism to our celebration of Judaism. And we also are forging links with local and national authorities to end the Orthodox monopoly. Unbelievably, no one could have imagined 10 years ago even that I, a progressive trained rabbi, would receive part of my wage from the Israeli government. But that's now happening because of work that we did together with the Israel Religious Action Center and the progressive movement here in Israel. I sit on the board of the Israel Religious Action Center, and through their incredible work, we now actually receive part of my wage from the Israeli government. So we have actually changed what Israel looks like, what Israel says about what Judaism is, through our work. All those are achievements that are down to the fact that we are trying to carry on the message and the spirit of the SAJ and of Rabbi Mordechai Kaplan. But of course, there are still plenty of challenges. The Jerusalem municipality, which is basically controlled by a coalition of groups of which the ultra-Orthodox parties are central, is refusing to renew the land lease for any non-Orthodox synagogues. Anyone who doesn't know, in Israel, no piece of land is owned by anything other than the Israeli government or the Jewish people. Okay, either one body or another represents the Jewish people and owns all the land, apart from very small parts, which are usually owned by the Greek Orthodox Church. But most of the land is owned by the government, and we have to lease that land every 25 years. The Jerusalem municipality is refusing to renew any of those leases. There's kind of a stalemate at the moment that says that even though they won't renew the lease, they won't kick us out. But we have to suffer that indignity. We're also asked to pay municipal taxes on part of our building in a way that no Orthodox institution would ever be asked to do. Okay, these are some of the things that we have to deal with because we are representing a Judaism that says, okay, that we believe in egalitarianism, that we believe that Jews and non-Jews should be equal citizens of this state, that we believe in a democratic, open, pluralistic Judaism. Because we stand for that, we are seen as a threat. And that truly is our greatest challenge. We have made great strides forward, but the one thing we haven't really done is we haven't convinced the majority of Israelis that we are an authentic form of Judaism. Rabbi Jack Cohen spent his life not just making himself part of Israel and part of what happens here, but also tried to create circles of discussion. Kilat Mevakshei Derech didn't start off as a praying synagogue. We started off as a group of discussion, and we grew from that. And what we were discussing was, what's this society going to look like? Rabbi Jack Cohen desperately wanted a more peaceful, coexisting society. He wanted to create a dialogue between Jews and Christians and Muslims, between Jews and Palestinians, about how we would share this land. That hasn't happened, and we still fail. As a congregation, as a kihila, as a community, many of our involved members would love us to be more involved in pushing forward an agenda of dialogue and of true peacemaking, but we aren't doing it. And part of that is because we haven't convinced enough Israelis that this is authentic Judaism. That's also connected to the Orthodox monopoly here, but not only. There's a piece, once again, I'm going to share a little piece from the parasha, which we didn't read in Shul, or which you didn't read in Shul. We did read in Shul. I'll bring it up on the screen. Hopefully you can see this. The Achrei Mot is Achrei the after the passing of the children of Nadav and Avihu, and they died after offering strange fire. We don't really know what strange fire Eish Zara means, but in our parasha, not from 3 weeks ago when we read Parashat Shmini when they actually passed away, but it is written. ועליהם תאמר איש איש מבית ישראל ומן הגר אשר יגור בתוכם אשר יעלה עולה או זבח, and you should say to them, any person of the house of Israel or of the strangers who will sojourn among them, who offers up a burnt offering or any other sacrifice, ואל פתח אוהל מועד לא יביאנו לעשות אותו לאדוני ונכרתה האיש ההוא מעמיו, ונכרת האיש ההוא מימיו. But anyone who does not bring it to the entrance of the tent of meeting to make it a sacrifice to the eternal, that person shall be cut off from their people. What we are doing here in Kilat Nevat Shederech is we are desperately trying to make the egalitarian democratic understanding of Judaism that Rabbi Jack Cohen sought to bring to Israel really be a part of the house of Israel. I believe we're continuing the mission of the SAJ here in Israel, but we do still have a long way to go. And unfortunately, because we are restricted by the Orthodox monopoly, we still rely on on help from America. And we would like to be much more what's called in Hebrew mushrash, having our roots here in Israel. And I'm sure many in my congregation would rather that I spoke with a much more Israeli accent. But most of our members are native Israelis, and we are desperately trying to get more involved, but it's not easy. There is a strong voice in Israel that says the kind of values that we believe in, the values that we understand to be Jewish values. When I say we, I mean both us in Kilat Nevat Shederech and absolutely the Society for the Advancement of Judaism. The kind of open, welcoming, desirous to be part of a social justice agenda Judaism that ties Kilat Nevat Shederech and SAJ together. That Judaism is not authentic. And we are fighting the opposite argument to say, not only is it authentic, but this is the Judaism that will prevail. And I desperately hope that together with all our allies and friends in all around the world, not just in North America, but also here in Israel, where we are part of over 50 progressive congregations now. We are a real force. But we're still struggling, even after 60 years. So I hope I've given you a sense, a little bit, of what Kilat Nevat Shederech is about, how Rabbi Jack Cohen took the ideas of the SAJ, which he shared with that congregation there when he was their rabbi, and brought them here to Jerusalem, along with a number of other founders. And over the years, many other people have added their voice to what makes our congregation what it is. And this is what we're doing. We're bringing democratic, egalitarian Judaism to Israel. And hopefully, in the future, we'll do it even better, and we'll create those dialogues with Jews and Muslims and Christians, which at the moment we're not doing enough of, but we hope to do better in the future. Shabbat Shalom to you all. I understand you have the wonderful minhag, the wonderful custom of a little open mic, people getting to critique the rabbi. That's what our congregation understands the open mic to be. People get to tell me why I'm wrong. Maybe you do it slightly differently, but I understand you have that. So if anyone would like to tell me the ways in which I am wrong, you're more than welcome to do so. If not, then Shabbat Shalom.
Custom, and we do want to have a minute, so we have maybe time for maybe 2 people. I'm going to run and get the other mic. Can you hear me? Okay, so we have Debbie Rand's going to speak.
Hi, thank you very much. I have a question. How much do you collaborate? You talked about the progressive movement in Israel quite a bit. So how much do you collaborate, say, with a congregation like Kol HaNeshama or Nava Tehillah? We sing a lot of their melodies here, because they're both in Jerusalem, there's other places in other parts of the country. But how much do you collaborate with them, and how would you say that your congregation is different, established much earlier? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. So many of you will know different things about progressive congregations here in Israel. There is a Tnuah Liyadut Mitkademet, the Israel Movement for Progressive Judaism, which most of the time calls itself the Israeli Reform Movement. That's unfortunate for those of us who are connected to the Reconstructionist movement, but it is in fact just the one progressive movement that represents both Reconstructionist Judaism and Reform Judaism of the American stripes here in Israel. So Kilat Kol HaNeshama is about 40 years old now. I'm actually very good friends with the rabbi there. We studied together in the same program here in Israel. We collaborate all the time. This coming Yom HaZikaron L'Shoah U'Gvora, the Holocaust Memorial Day, one of the rabbis who's a member of our synagogue and is in fact the head of our ritual committee will be going to Kol HaNeshama to serve as a translator. I helped them find their Yom HaShoah speaker. And because I helped them find them, I also had to help them find the Russian translator. So they're doing something which is great because particularly with what's going on in Ukraine at the moment, there are many people, and this Holocaust survivor will be speaking in Russian, but he's Ukrainian. And he's arrived recently, so he needs a translator. So we helped them set up their Yom HaShoah program. There's numerous things we do together. In recent years, we've done one of the main things we do together is on the Memorial Day for Yitzhak Rabin. There's a time where all the Jerusalem communities come together. We also cooperate with Kilat Har El, which is a genuinely Reform synagogue, the actual oldest ongoing progressive synagogue in Israel, and we do programming together with them quite often as well. We run our Bar Bat Mitzvah program together with another one of the progressive shuls in Israel, so in Jerusalem. So we have lots of connections with Kilat Nava Tehillah, for instance. Every year they use our building once a year, when usually they use the building of Kilat Kol HaNeshama. So, and obviously I'm in touch with Rabbi Ruth Kagan, who's the leader of Kilat Nava Tehillah. We all work very, very well together. There's very little competition. There's an understanding that we're all doing what we can in a shared enterprise. And so we actually cooperate very, very well. We all know each other very, very well. All the rabbis, there are 4 male rabbis of the 5 progressive congregations, the 5 congregations that are part of the Israeli progressive movement. All 4 of us were the students of the female rabbi, who is the rabbi of Kilat Har El, when we were in, most of us overlapped in rabbinical school. So we're all her students, and we all work very well together, and also with that congregation. So yes, a lot of cooperation, a lot of synergy, a lot of trying to work together, a lot of trying to make sure we're never competing and always working to make the most of our minimal resources.
Great, thanks. We have time for one more very quick question. I'm coming over here. I don't know if you can still see us. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Never give a teacher a microphone and say quick. I'm wondering if in your synagogue, people are aware of the work that Jack did with the Beit Hillel Foundation, where he sent teams of Jewish and Arab college students into villages all over Israel to run a combination remedial program and summer camp for kids who are extremely poor. And the reason I know about this program is in 1973, he invited me to come to Israel and work in the program, which I did. And I spent a month living with Arabs. It was fabulous. I'm just wondering if you guys know about this.
Well, certainly the people from my congregation on this call will know about it because they're his children. But the truth is, no, not enough of my congregation do know some of the amazing work that Rabbi Cohen did outside of this congregation. We concentrate on what he did for us, but actually I didn't even mention that the reason or what he did as a profession when he came here is he basically set up the whole Hillel system for the University of the Hebrew University, which was the first Hillel in Israel. So as well as the fact that there are now 50 progressive congregations here in Israel, thanks to Jack Cohen, there's also a Hillel at nearly every Israeli university, really changing the way secular Israelis in particular, but Israelis of all stripes think about the way they do Jewish as students in universities. So he really also made a huge difference there. And of course, one of the things he truly cared about was coexistence, another way in which I am sorry to say we don't do enough here to honor his legacy of working coexistence, and we would love to do more. Thank you very, very much. Shabbat Shalom to you all. It was wonderful to be part of SAJ's Tefillot this morning. I will stay with you for the end of Tefillot. Thank you for listening to me. It was a real pleasure.
Really wonderful to hear from you. I know not everyone knows about this, that your congregation exists, and yes, Debbie knows and David knows, and so it's just wonderful to hear from you. Just like a little taste today, and we hope more going forward to develop a stronger relationship with you and as well with Israel.
Thank you
we
very
are
much.
going to Yasher Koach as well. We are going to return the Torah to the Ark. So I'm going to invite our Ark opener and our Torah holder to come on up. And if we could return the screen to the gallery view so I can see folks at home for a little later. Page 433, please, Rob. No. Yeah, hallelujah, Shem Adonai, Ki Nizkar Shem Levado, Hodo Eretz V'Shamayim, Vayarem Keren Le'amo, Tehila Lechol Chasidav, Livnei Yisrael, Al Kirovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Page 441, we sing Eitz Chaim Hi. Eitz Chaim Hi, Lama Chazikim Ba, V'tomcheha Meyushar Derocheha, Darchei Noam, V'chol Netivoteha, Shalom, Hashkivenu Adonai, Elecha v'nashuva, Chadesh Yameinu, Kekedem. We remain standing for Aleinu, page 445. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שנתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי 449, the last three lines in the Hebrew or transliteration. Kakatu v'toratecha Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed v'nemar v'haya Adonai le'melech al kol ha'aretz bayom ha'hu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. Please be seated. In reciting Kaddish, we affirm our awareness of holiness in our world. Much of our experience of divine goodness, grace, and love has come to us through those whose lives have touched our own. Today, the SAJ community remembers Rabbi Dr. Jack Cohen, Louis Castle, Jacob Landau, Fenton Goldberg, and Charles Prezant. We invoke the transcendent power of love and caring as we sanctify God's name with the Mourner's Kaddish, page 451. If you're observing a yahrzeit, a period of mourning, or it's your custom, please rise. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, ve'almad yivarach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayachon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, v'agala u'v'zman kari v'yimru, amen. Yehei shmei rabba levarach le'alam u'lalmei almayah. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitalem v'yithalal shemei dekutsha u'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran ve'alma v'yiru, amen. Yehei shlam araba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yiru, amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'yimru, amen. We have some announcements from our board chair, Janet Breen, on her way up.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So great to see everyone here today. Thank you to Ruth Messenger for your leading the Tish this morning, to Debbie Rand for your laning, and to Shelley Messing for ushering today. We are so appreciative to Rabbi Chaim Shalom for zooming in with us today, this morning. That was really very, very special. Today at 12:30 in the social hall will be Nigun singing led by Debbie Rand. Please just grab some food and then come back down for this wonderful, wonderful Shabbat tradition. It will be in person and also on Zoom. We're closed. It's in the social hall. Okay, so that makes it even easier. So we're closing the Zoom link down here, and it'll just be upstairs. Tomorrow evening at 5:30 p.m., we honor David Katz as Hatan Torah and Jordan Friedland as Hatan Bereshit. Come join us here or join on Zoom to hear their Jewish journey stories, to celebrate all that each one of them has given to SAJ, and also, if you're here in person, to have some dessert with us afterwards. Next Saturday, we're excited to share in the joy as 17 SAJ adults become b'mitzvah. This is after 18 months of study with Rabbi Lauren Cantor, Lisa, and rabbinic intern Noah. They will be leading us in prayer, and they will also be reading from the Torah. So please, everyone, come and celebrate this. Monday evening is rabbinic intern Noah's class on counting the Omer. It's called Learning from Torah of Our Lives. The class will be on Zoom. and 2 other important Zoom events coming up. First is 4 p.m. on May 1st. There's a panel discussion with SAJ's past and present education directors. It will be moderated by Rabbi Lauren and also Rabbi Shine of the Kaplan Center for Jewish Peoplehood. The educators will discuss Kaplanian education and innovations, 40 years of learning and teaching at SAJ. And it really will be a time for SAJers to connect with the educators that shape their children's lives and also shape their lives. So we hope that you'll join us on Zoom for that. Next is on May 4th at 7 p.m. Marcia Jacobson will moderate a conversation with rabbinical student Elisa, or Zippy as she's known, Zilberstein. As a member of an international network of individuals supporting the Ukraine, she transmits information among those on the ground who are unable to communicate directly with one another. She routes donations, arranges logistics for evacuees, and much more. She does all of this while maintaining contact with her family in the Ukraine. Zippy will update us on the situation in the Ukraine, the Jewish community there, and give us ways to help. Because today is the 8th day of Passover and Shabbat, we were not able to buy chametz, hence one more day of a kosher for Passover kiddush upstairs in the social hall, but do join us. Do join us. You coming upstairs with me? Good. All right. So we'll see you after services upstairs, or grab something and go outside. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom. We're going to conclude with Adon Olam on page 459. This melody is by the Israeli Yonatan Razel, originally written for Doror Yikra, but has been popularly adapted for Adon Olam. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yetzir Nivra Le'ed Nasa V'chefzo Kol Hazai Melech Shemo Nikra Ve'acharei Kichlot HaKol Levado Yimloch Nora Ve'hu Haya Ve'hu Hoveh Ve'hu Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yetzir Nivra Le'ed Nasa V'chefzo Kol Hazai Melech Shemo Nikra Ve'acharei Kichlot HaKol Levado Yimloch Nora Ve'hu Haya Ve'hu Hoveh Ve'hu Betifara Ve'hu echad ve'ein sheni Lehamshilo lehachbira Ve'li reishit ve'li taklit Ve'lo ha'oz ve'hamisra Ve'hu eli ve'chai go'ali Ve'tzor kevli be'yetzara Ve'hu nisi Kosi beyom ekra Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yetzir Nivra Le'ed Nasa V'chefzo Kol Hazai Melech Shemo Nikra Ve'acharei Kichlot HaKol Levado Yimloch Nora Adonai li velo ira Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yetzir Nivra Le'ed Nasa V'chefzo Kol
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, everyone at home. Please unmute. Say hello. Introduce yourself if you're new.
Shabbat Shalom.